Lansing embodies a unique history of manufacturing of automobiles, the people who sold them and the people who drove them. Mary Jane McClintock Wilson is a Lansing native, a graduate of Michigan State University, and we've asked her to share some of her observations about Lansing and car distributors. Mary Jane, over the years, your father owned several automobile distributorships in Lansing, did he not?
He did. He was in the automobile business from the time that he graduated from high school. But the first automobile, he came to Lansing in the early 1920s. He'd been in Ann Arbor with a Ford dealership and Studebaker dealership. Then after the war, he came to Lansing, and eventually he had a Packard dealership, but he had a number of others. He had Willys, Overland, DeSoto, Plymouth, etc. And his building, his what's the word I'm looking for? His showroom, his office, was on the corner of Capitol and Washington. And when we were children, we used to go down there. It was a small showroom, and compared to sizes of today, it could hold 2 automobiles. And in the back, there was the shop, and where they could probably take care of a couple more automobiles. Dad's staff consisted of 2 salesmen that I know. We used to love to go down there because he would have these cars that we could sit in. He would have all kinds of different cars. He'd have some old cars. I remember an automobile that was made for a chauffeur-driven automobile that had a glass between the chauffeur and the passengers, and then they had a little microphone that we could talk back and forth, so my brother be the chauffeur and I'd be the elegant passenger. I remember one day he came home and he said he'd just taken in an automobile from Alice Faye, so we quickly went down. I don't remember the automobile, but we had a slip of paper that had Alice Faye's name on it. But it was a small-time business, but what they did, they took care of everybody. It was a very close-knit family in the automobile business. And I remember during the Depression, Dad saying that there was one lady that bought a car every year, and when that car was purchased, Dad would share whatever profit they had with his small force. There was also the personal touch with his customers. One day a fellow came in, an older gentleman came in, he'd locked his car. He was locked out of his car, and he had his 100-year-old mother with him, and he had brought her down to see the Capitol. So Dad walked back to the Capitol where his car was parked, and according to what he used to say, by hook or by crook, and probably by a wire hanger, he got the door opened. And the gentleman said, "Is there anything I can do for you? Or is there a charge?" And Dad said, "Of course not." So he said, "Well, is there anything you can do for us? I can do for you." And he had introduced himself as Sebastian Kresge. Well, now the connection was, just a short time before that, Dad had sold one of his automobiles to the manager of Neisner's, which was part of the many businesses that Kresge owned. So he said, "Well, would you mind walking or going over with me to meet the general manager? You probably don't meet too many of your general managers, and not too many of them meet you." And so that's what he did. He went over and met the general manager, and it thrilled the man. But that's a personal touch. Over the years, businesses began to grow, and at first, the few automobile businesses were right downtown, and then they began to go out onto Michigan Avenue. My father's business went out to 2400 East Michigan Avenue. Al Edwards moved out to East Michigan Avenue. Bud Couts moved to Michigan Avenue. And of course, Oldsmobile moved to Michigan Avenue. And of course, their workforce expanded. They had many, many salesmen. That's another thought. The ownership started to change after that. They were still personal owners. You still knew the owners, but in more recent years now, they're kind of absentee ownerships. And when Capital Cadillac, which after my brother took over Capital Cadillac, And he moved it out to Pennsylvania Avenue, where several more dealerships started to go. And then when my brother sold his business, he sold it to Massey Cadillac. And what I was going to bring up was Massey Cadillac had a woman general manager. Now, that's the first time I've known of that. I know that the Dykstras had Candy Dykstra to own a dealership outside of the greater Lansing. I'm not sure where hers was. And I know Jenny Atan had a dealership over in Charlotte. But there have been women that have gotten into dealerships. But I think this woman that Massey had was the first woman that was the manager.
This is a wonderful reminiscence. Thank you very, very much, Mary Jane. Next time we'd like to hear more about your extensive work for Sparrow Hospital, for the Michigan Historical Center, Capital Area District Library, and Junior League.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, delighted to talk.
Today.
Like to talk about those days. They were wonderful.
Thank you.